This midweek football report was brought to you by Simple Lubes of Greenwood. No time for an oil change? Simple Lubes will come to you. Simply call them at 992-4268.
Greenwood, Greenwood, Greenwood. We are back and better than ever. My name is Johnathan L, and I'm your sports for GreenwoodTodaySports.com, and this is another Wednesday midweek report video. Got two new characters here, and I'm gonna let them introduce themselves. First on the right, we've got the Ware Shoals Hornets man, Chris Maxie.
How y'all doing this morning?
On the left, we got none other than Mr. Ware Shoals, another Ware Shoals Hornets, the guy with the perfect football name, James Spikes. How you doing, James?
Doing pretty good, man.
Ware Shoals versus Saluda. It was played on Saturday night. All the games were played on Saturday night due to bad weather Friday night. We had a little hurricane come in. But Chris, Ware Shoals versus Saluda, all I can say is that it was worth the wait. Give us kind of a recap of what you saw on Friday night.
All right. Everybody was talking at the beginning of the game. They were thinking, okay, it's going to be one of these games where it's going to be kind of one-sided either way, and it turned out to be nothing of that. Ware Shoals took the early lead, drove like a 10-play drive, capped off by like a 3-4 yard touchdown run, went up 7-0. They let Saluda come back with a punt return for a touchdown, 82-yard punt return for a touchdown. Kiki Clark, number 12 from Saluda, kid's fast, and they let him have too many holes, and they paid for it. Yeah. But first half came to a close. They were 15-7. Then everything decided it wanted to be the barn burner. They gave the fans their money's worth, definitely. The rest of the game, Ware Shoals came out on top at the end, thanks to Shamarie Smith. 2 minutes roughly left in the ball game. 2.5 minutes left in the ball game. Jake Amick handed it off to him. Somehow, don't know, he found a hole. 58 yards later, Ware Shoals had the lead. Like I said, Ware Shoals has got a bigger opponent this week at home, Batesburg, Leesville.
Yeah.
It's always a tough game. We went down there last year. Didn't have a good result last year, so I'm hoping for a different turnaround this time since we are at home. So we'll have to see what plays out.
Moving on, Emerald versus Greenwood. It was maybe the last showing, James, the last dance. You covered the game. It really doesn't ever live up to the hype, I guess. I mean, James, Greenwood topped Emerald 31-0. Give us a breakdown of the game.
In my opinion, if Emerald had the same amount of plays as Greenwood, the game would have been a lot closer. Because at halftime, before Emerald got tired, and because Greenwood kept throwing in fresh legs every time, and Emerald could only play so many people, at halftime it was 10-0. And the defense kept stepping up. Right at halftime, right before they went in, Greenwood was down in the red zone, about to score, and Emerald held them until the half ended. And I'm like, if they can show that every time, if they can be as consistent as they were at that point in time, that Greenwood had a lot of trouble in their hands.
It seemed like Greenwood really went back to the ground game in the second half, using DJ Goodman, the running back, against Emerald's defense. I felt like the Vikings defense just ran out of gas on Friday night. Like you said, it started out pretty fast. Greenwood was hitting them with some quick passes by DJ Dunlap, who left the game in the second half because of heat exhaustion. Didn't play in the second half. Emerald, they look good, but the offense is going to have to help that defense out, because if the offense is just putting up 3 and outs on every possession, they're not really doing much justice to the defense. They're just leaving them out on the field to die. Abbeville, 96 game, 40-7. From what I heard, it was same as usual. 96 got ran on by Run Over Me Elmore, Action Thaxton, and Sammy Head. Chris, when you look at Abbeville, I know you've got some connections down there. You kind of know Jamie Nichols, the coach. Moving on from this game, what do you see with Abbeville Panthers?
Well, like we've talked previously, I think Abbeville, they're going to start off real strong, but there is going to be that point this year. I don't think that that streak's gonna get broken some point this year.
Emerald versus 96 is a huge game for both teams because both teams got blew out last week, and now they got to get back on track. Kind of evenly matched. James, when you're looking at the Wildcats, you've seen both teams, the Wildcats and Emerald Vikings. What's your prediction on the game? Who you see winning and why?
I think it's going to come down to like the final seconds of the game. In my opinion, they both have pretty good quarterbacks. Right now, I'm thinking the quarterback from 96 is a little better.
Yeah.
And that's what's going to come down to, just them on offense. Because the defenses are there and strong. So the only question marks for both teams right now are their offenses. And it's always come down to the leader on offense, the quarterback.
Mm-hmm. If you go between the two teams, combine their scores from last week, they only put up 7 points total. So hopefully they can, come back a little bit stronger. But like you said, the defense for both sides is going to determine the game. Both of them are pretty strong. Move over to Chris. Chris, you're looking at 96 versus Emerald. Who you see winning and why?
Well, I think really like James said, it's going to come down to probably the last quarter of the game. It's going to come down to who wants it more. Because, like I said, both teams got blown out, and they're going to look to rebound off of a hard loss. And then I think it's going to come down to Emerald because the fact that, they played Greenwood. It's 4A versus 2A. They're back in their mentality now. Okay, we're back in a team we're more evenly matched with.
And you're speaking of last year's game, I forgot to mention that Emerald actually should have won that game last year, but it came down to the last 2 minutes. And guess what? Emerald special teams blew the game. A long punt return, I think it was by Kelsey Washington, 196 the game. I think it always comes down to an evenly matched contest between these two teams. It always comes down to the last 2 minutes. I don't think it will be any different this year. And if it's going to come down to the last 2 minutes and it's going to come down to special teams, I'm going to go with Emerald because of their kicker, Jeremy Tommy. He's one of the best in the Lakelands. Moving on, Chris, talk about who had a good game that was already on the Hornets watch list, and then who you're going to add come Wednesday on the midweek report.
Right, I think, of course, Jake Amick, he's got to stay on there. He had a great game. Mm-hmm. He really stepped up for the offense. I think really I've got to add Shamari Smith to the watch list this week. He really stepped up, wound up having what turned out to be the game-winning touchdown for the Hornets this past week. He's got to go on there.
Moving over to the left, James. My watch list players for Greenwood, I'm covering Greenwood this year, was DJ Goodman. He had a big second half run against Emerald. We'll talk about that run.
My goodness. That run was amazing. He had to be tackled at the 1 yard line. Then next thing you know, you see him break loose and hit the sideline, and everybody was like, touchdown. He had to be 50 yards away from touchdown at that point in time. And he still had 3 people chasing him, but everybody on this Greenwood sideline while I was sitting there already was saying touchdown. And I was like, well, I agree with you. It's going to be a touchdown.
Yeah.
That man is fast.
Yeah. South Carolina versus NC State. I'm not sure if either one of y'all two are big Gamecocks fans. I really hope not this season because it's going to be a rough year. Chris, when you see SC versus NC State, who wins and why?
Well, they're traveling to NC State. Thursday night game. Everybody's going to be focused on it. There's going to be it's going to be ESPN.
Yeah. Usually when this happens, they lose.
Yeah, usually when they get a Thursday night game and it's ESPN coverage, somehow they find the reason to lose the ball game. I think NC State's going to pull it out.
James, who's going to win the NC State game?
Like you just said, it's the NC State game.
Yeah.
USC just going to show up, and they're going to be on the field, but NC State's going to win. At least I'm giving by 2 touchdowns.
Yeah. First of all, if I got to go with these guys, I think NC State, it's going to be a little bit of a closer game than 2 touchdowns, I hope. This was the second midweek report of the season for Chris Maxie, for James Spikes. My name is Johnathan Graves, and I am out.
This midweek football report was brought to you by Simple Lubes of Greenwood. No time for an oil change? Simple Lubes will come to you. Simply call them at 992-4268.